And I'm Howie Silbiger. Welcome to the Howie Silbiger Show right here on the True Talk Radio Network. You could join us in the conversation. The number to call is 1-877-669-1292. That's 1-877-669-1292. That's the number to call to get in on the conversation here on the Howie Silbiger Show on the True Talk Radio Network. I want to tell you that there has been quite a few changes on True Talk Radio lately, and I wanted to fill you in on them. We've added a couple of shows. We added Passion with Dr. Lori Bettito and John Paul. They air every single night. It's a new show on Tuesday, but we repeat it every single night at 11 p.m. So if you missed it on Tuesday, you can catch it every single night at 11 p.m. right here on TrueTalkRadio.com or on the True Talk Radio app. Tell your friends about the True Talk Radio app, True Talk Radio Network app, and it can be downloaded from any of the app stores, True Talk Radio Network app. We're adding this week a new show, Rick Keen's Music Scene. It will be added. It'll start tomorrow. Check the schedule on TrueTalkRadio.com for the times that it airs. I'm not sure exactly what time it's going to fit in, but check TrueTalkRadio.com for the time. Rick Keen's Music Scene starts tomorrow. And of course, we have our regular shows. We have my show, the Howie Silbiger Show. We have Political Hitman with Howie Silbiger. We have Inside the Vault with Sheldon Eric Freed. We have the Stuff File program with Peter Anthony Holder. So many Montreal-produced shows, and we are looking for more. If you produce a show or you want to produce a show here in Montreal, and you want it aired and you want people to listen to it, feel free to contact me, Howie at TrueTalkRadio.com, and I will be more than happy to discuss the possibilities of putting your show right here on True Talk Radio. What an exciting opportunity for Montreal radio people to have an outlet where they could produce radio and not have to worry about corporate overlords looking down on them and telling them what to say and what they can't say and what they could do and what they can't do. We are committed to producing Montreal radio and Montreal radio at its best, and we are committed to allowing artists to produce their shows in the format that they want to produce them in, and to express their skills and their art in the way that they express their skills and their art. So I invite you to join us here on True Talk Radio, produce a show. I'm working on a couple of other shows that I'm producing myself. Well, not me as host, but I'm producing them for other people that will air here on True Talk Radio. There's some exciting stuff coming up. And our goal is eventually to have just 2 syndicated shows on the station. Frank Catolo's Chronicles, because he's been on the station since day one and we're not taking him off. And Neil Haley, the Neil Haley Show, who's been on our station since day 2. And we're not taking him off either. But other than those 2 shows, every other American syndicated show that we air on True Talk Radio, I want off the air by the summertime. I want to replace it all with Montreal radio, and Montreal radio means that if we have more shows, then we will stop repeating shows every day, and we'll start airing shows every day. So the more shows you produce, the more shows that we produce, the more shows that become part of True Talk Radio, the better it is for everyone here in Montreal and Montreal radio. And, of course, we invite you to help us financially. There's a GoFundMe campaign going to try to raise money to help us financially as we produce all these Montreal shows and put them on the air. You could go to GoFundMe.com and search for Fund Independent Radio in Montreal, and it is us. And you could help us financially, and that would be much appreciated. I'm Howie Silbiger. It's the Howie Silbiger Show right here on the True Talk Radio Network. You could call in 1-877-669-1292 is the number to call. Recently, since the skirmish between Gaza, since the Gazans tried to commit genocide against the Jews in the Middle East, and that the Jews in the Middle East fought back, Jews apparently in this world are not allowed fighting back. That's a cardinal sin, apparently, to fight back when you're being attacked. So Jews, Israelis that fought back were condemned by the world. And not only were they condemned by the world, they've been condemned by the New York Post and the New York Times and the Washington Times, because newspapers can't stand the fact that Jews are strong and Jews are fighting back. And Jews have suffered the consequences around the world. So we've seen Jews in New York, in Montreal, in Toronto, in Spain, in Greece, being beaten up on the streets. A scene that has not been seen since the early 1930s in Germany. It is a scary situation, a scary, scary scenario when you think that people walking down the street are hiding their Jewishness for fear of being attacked. I thought we lived in a free world. I thought we lived in a free society. Apparently not. Well, apparently not if you're Jewish. And that's it's a big problem for me. I have a huge problem with that. And so we get on the air, and I talk about this on the air, and people call me a fascist for saying what I say on the air, and I don't really care. I've been advocating for years that Jewish children should be taught martial arts in school. This should be a compulsory course in every high school and every elementary school across the world, every Jewish high school and elementary school across the world. Jews should be taught self-defense. Not because we want to be offensive and want to go and attack people, because when we get attacked, we should be able to defend ourselves. I read recently there was a posting online. Actually, Barbara Kay shared this posting. It wasn't about her, it was about somebody else. But she shared this posting of a person who said that they were at a Montreal rally, a Montreal pro-Israel rally. And after the rally, they were walking back to their car, and they were attacked by a bunch of thugs who wanted to beat them up because they were Jewish. I mean, there's no other reason to beat up Jews in the streets of Montreal unless it's because they're Jewish. You're not beating up Jews in Montreal because something happening in Israel. You're not beating up Jews in Montreal because something happening in Gaza. You're not beating up Jews in Montreal because something happening around the world, somewhere around the world. You're beating up Jews in Montreal because they're Jews living in Montreal. And you hate Jews. There's no other reason to beat up Jews in the street of any city. So, they went to beat up these Jews, and these Jews had no idea how to fight back. And they ended up running away. But that's not really a great strategy when you're dealing with thugs and bullies. Running away from a bully doesn't stop the bully from beating you up. It just encourages him to come back and do it again because he sees you're weak. Jews have to be strong. And Jews have to show their strength. And the only way Jews could show their strength is knowing how to defend themselves, knowing how to fight, and knowing how to fight back. Failure to do that, and you know, the Jewish community has failed to do this. I'll tell you a short story before I get to Sheldon. Sheldon's standing by. Before we go to Sheldon, I'm going to tell you a little short story because I think it's an important story, and it happened 30 years ago, and it's still relevant today. So 30 years ago, I had the same feelings I have today about Jews defending themselves. This was a feeling that I've had forever. It's not the first time. This is not my first rodeo of Jews being beaten up in the street. I've seen this before, unfortunately. So about 30 years ago, there were Jewish old ladies who were being beaten up and robbed. They were being mugged in the Snowden-Cotoneige area of Montreal as they were walking home from the grocery store. They were getting their arms broken, their legs broken, and it was really a scary situation. And one of my friends came to me. He called me. I was running an organization called Save All Jews Everywhere at the time, an organization I founded in the early 90s to fight for the rights of Jewish people, to fight for the defense of Jewish people. I get a call, and people are asking me to do something about this because I'm running this organization, and they expected us, an organization called Save All Jews Everywhere, they expect us to save all Jews everywhere. I mean, that's what we had pledged to do. And we were based in Montreal, so why would we not be saving Jews in Montreal? It was a great question. So I looked around and I found the guy. His name was Natan. I won't give you his last name, but his name was Natan. And Natan and I decided that he was going to start an organization called the Jewish Security Force. Now, what was the goal of the Jewish Security Force? It was not to go out and attack Jew haters. That wasn't our goal. The goal of the Jewish Security Force was to be a walk-safe program for old people in the Snowden area. So that if an old lady wanted to go to the supermarket, they were all afraid to leave their homes at the time because a whole bunch of them had been beaten up and mugged. So if they wanted to leave their home to go shopping, or they wanted to leave their home to go to the bank or had a doctor's appointment, we would supply a bodyguard to go with them and to just walk with them to make sure that they got there safely. The bodyguard's job wasn't to attack people. It wasn't to provoke violence. It was to stop violence if violence happened. And these bodyguards would be trained in martial arts. This guy Natan was a black belt in martial arts, so we arranged for him to train people. And we put out the call for young, strong Jewish people to come and train to be bodyguards for old people who are walking to the mall. Well, we got 3,000 volunteers. 3,000 volunteers. And Natan started training them. And the Suburban got wind of the project. We weren't really into advertising it. The less we advertised it, the better it was, because we knew how the Jewish community works. And the Suburban got a wind of it, and they ran an article. And they included Natan's picture in the article and a whole description of what we were planning on doing. And the fact that we had sponsors, we had people who sponsored communication equipment, we had people who sponsored shirts, so we'd be visible and very visible in the public, so that people would see that who we were and that we were there. And I got a call. And I got a call from Yechiel Glustein, who at the time, the late Yechiel Glustein, of blessed memory, he called me up and he says to me, he was the executive director of B'nai B'rith, and Robert Libman was the assistant executive director of B'nai B'rith at the time. Or maybe he was just replacing him. It was kind of the transition period when Robert Libman was taking over B'nai B'rith. And they called me into a meeting in their office. So I went into the office and I said, "Hi, what can I do for you?" And they looked at me and they said, "We want to talk to you about the Jewish security force." This was just after the Suburban article came out. I looked at them and I said to them, "Hey, listen, I'm not involved in the Jewish security force. Yeah, okay, I was involved in, he came to me and they wanted me to be involved in it. I didn't want to be involved in it. I gave them strategical advice on how to set it up. But in reality, it had nothing to do with me. Natan was running it and had nothing really to do with me." And they said, yeah, Howie, we know how you work, and we know that you're in charge of it, and so we're telling you we don't want you to do this. And I looked at them. I was dumbfounded. I looked at them. I said, "You don't want me to do what? You don't want me to protect little old Jewish ladies who are being beaten up by thugs in the street? I mean, isn't that our job? That we protect each other? That we make sure that we're all safe? No, we don't want you to doing this. And if you continue to do this, then the organized Jewish community is not going to look very favorably upon your organization." I said, "Okay." I didn't really care. And I left the room. I walked out. Now, I forgot to mention, it's a very important point, that Michael Krellenstein, who was the director of Canadian Jewish Congress, was also sitting there in the meeting. And Michael Krellenstein and the Canadian Jewish Congress and B'nai B'rith didn't get along at the time. So this little project of the Jewish Security Force actually caused Jewish unity, where B'nai B'rith and Canadian Jewish Congress came together to unify against an organization that wanted to go out and protect Jews. So I told them, "Okay, whatever, thank you very much," and I left. 2 days later, I get a call from a detective sergeant in the Montreal Police Force. The detective sergeant says to me, "Could you and Natan come down and see us? We'd like to speak to you. Come to our station. Station 25 was on the corner of St. Matthew and St. Catherine downtown." Okay. Natan and I got into the metro. We went downtown. We went to the police station. We sat for 2 hours with the cops. As the cops told us that what we were doing wasn't illegal. There was nothing illegal about what we were doing. But they would be watching us very closely. And if we stepped 1 inch out of line, 1 centimeter out of line, actually, he said, they would be up our asses quicker than we could bend over. That's what the man told me. We left the meeting kind of wondering how the police got our contact information, how the police, acted. It wasn't a mystery to me that I got a call from the police just a day or 2 days after I had a meeting with B'nai B'rith and Canadian Jewish Congress where I told them to buzz off. So it wasn't shocking to me that I got a call from the cops. So we had a meeting, me and Natan, and we decided that we were going to continue with the project because the project was too important to stop because Canadian Jewish Congress and B'nai B'rith didn't like it. Way too important. And we continued. few days later, Natan calls me up. And he says to me, listen, he says, my father just got a call from the RCMP. He is a immigrant from Russia. And they told him that if I continue doing what I'm doing with the Jewish security force, they're going to deport the whole family back to Russia. He says, so I have to quit. I have to quit. He says, I can't take the risk. And I was thinking, could you imagine? This is our organized Jewish community, and this is what they did to a couple of young guys who were trying to help the community. And so I bring up the story not because I want to dig up 25-year and 30-year-old beefs I have with Federation. That's not why I bring up the story. I bring up the story because Jews are being beaten in the street, and it's the Jewish community's job to protect them. And lip service doesn't do it. When we want to protect the Jewish community, what we have to do is we have to teach the Jewish community how to protect themselves. And the only way that we could teach the Jewish community how to protect themselves is to teach them self-defense, to teach children self-defense so that when they become adults, they know how to defend themselves. It's the only way to stay alive, at least in my opinion. I'm Howie Silbiger. You could give me a call, 1-877-669-1292. That's the Howie Silbiger Show on the True Talk Radio Network. Joining me now is my friend and yours and my colleague and the birthday boy last week, Mr. Sheldon Eric Fried. Mr. Sheldon Eric Fried, happy birthday. How does it feel to be 1 year older?
Well, it's great being 24.
Oh, 24. On one leg, yeah.
My significant other, even in two legs, I'm still younger than what you think I am.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
But thank you very much for your wishes. It was very, very nice. It was a really, really nice, beautiful day, that's for sure. It reminds me when you were saying about this topic about kids being learned to defend themselves. I remember when we were at Radio Shalom, we were actually having that same discussion.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? It was about 10 years ago that we had the same discussion.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
And it was actually the Jewish Defense League was being brought up.
That's right.
And I'm going to ask the magical question again. Do you think that the Jewish Defense League should come into the city and start protecting the Jewish people?
At the time we had the conversation about the Jewish Defense League, I think it was like 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, it was pretty much when I joined your stuff, yeah.
So it was about 7 or 8 years ago. We had that conversation with Jewish Defense League, and we had Rabbi Pupko on who said, I don't believe that Jewish Defense League should come to Montreal. And I came out against the Jewish Defense League coming to Montreal at the time. I didn't think the situation warranted the Jewish Defense League. I do think that the situation warrants the Jewish Defense League now.
That's what I think too.
When the when the community has to resort to putting 2 security guards plus the regular security that's standing in front of a school, so you have 3 security guards standing in front of schools because they're afraid of attacks. When you have fortified buildings, and you have buildings that are that have to be fortified stronger than Fort Knox because people are threatening the Jewish community. When you have Jews being beaten in the streets, now is the time for the Jewish Defense League. And I really believe that it's time to bring in the Jewish Defense League. If not only to protect Jews, but to make enough noise to say that we're not backing down, that we're a strong community. And Federation and B'nai B'rith are not the organization to do that. I'm sorry. They're great at advocacy. They're great at diplomacy, but they're not good at saying, hey, this is terrible.
What I'm thinking also is the fact that, it's one thing for people to have opposing points of view and have demonstrations, but it's a different story when thugs actually attack the other side physically, throwing rocks and beating people up for no reason because they believe that they're right. I mean, it's one thing to have different opposing points of view. I get that. We get that. And how many times have we discussed, and no matter what demonstrations people do, it's always a splinter group of different groups of thugs that completely annihilates what the demonstration was, what the purpose of the demonstration was. Now, it's one thing, you don't like this, you don't like that, but if you don't hurt them, if you leave well enough alone, that's that's one thing. When you actually physically go up to a person saying, I don't like you because you're this. I don't like you because you're that. I don't like you because of the color of your skin. I don't like you because you're wearing a Jewish star. I'm sorry, but we're supposed to be living in a society, especially in Canada, that we're supposed to all get along. And now it's the situation in the Middle East is now spilling on all over the world. And first of all, the whole thing should never have started to begin with. And then also to use a mosque in Jerusalem to stockpile weapons.
Yeah.
I mean, you're using a holy, it's like if people were to use a synagogue. Now, if Israelis were to use a synagogue to stockpile weapons, you wouldn't believe the coverage the media would give. And obviously the coverage wouldn't be good now, would it? But when you're saying a mosque and then stockpiling weapons against Jewish people, and then you get missiles that are flying into Israel, I mean, enough is enough. If people have to start learning of acceptance, tolerance, and people living in peace. And I'm surprised in a country that's supposed to be progressive like Canada, and countries like Canada, United States, and other developed countries, that people have to stoop so low because a person is not what they want them to be, and to commit utter violence and ridiculous crimes against people, their families, the loss of life, the bloodshed. This has to stop, and it has to stop now. They're innocent people, and we have to put an end to this. And how we're going to do it, it's like you said, the Jewish people have to learn to defend themselves. We have to have the Jewish Defense League in Montreal, and I thought I would never say
I'm
say
shocked to hear this from you, Sheldon. Absolutely shocked. You're the lefty on the show, right? I'm shocked by this.
Well, you know what? I'm lefty, but I'm also progressive, and I call a spade a spade. Like I said, if people on the right are advocating for the common good and for the peace and everything like that, and to improve the quality of life, I'm for them. It's not because if I'm left leaning that I disregard anything that anybody on the right ever has to say, and that's not the way I am. And the thing is, I thought I would never say this, Howie, but we have no choice, because, like you said, if B'nai B'rith and other parts of the Jewish community is not going to protect us, we need somebody that will.
Okay, so they're going to argue, Sheldon, that they're protecting us by putting security at all buildings, and by telling Jews stay out of the streets as much as possible, hide your Jewishness. I mean, they're saying they're protecting us like that, but that's not the kind of protection I'm talking about.
No, look, it used to be years ago, people were proud to wear their mezuzah, the Star of David. Now there's many people I know that won't even wear a mezuzah. They will not wear the Star of David. They're scared. They're scared to bits. They're they're petrified. And this is Canada. This is in our own backyard. This is not
Who wants to live in a society where you're scared to show your identity? But then again, we live in Quebec, where they legislated that you can't wear religious symbols in public spaces, right?
Well, this is a totalitarian government, because they're against any religious symbols. They're against the freedom of expressing ourselves.
But what message is that sending to the haters? So here you have a government telling you that you can't wear a hijab, you can't wear a yarmulke, you can't wear a turban, and then suddenly Jews are being beaten up in the street because of something happening 7,000 miles away. Now I'm wondering, is there a correlation there? Do you think that somehow it might be related, that the government has sent the signal saying that we really don't care if you're beating up Jews, we don't care if you're beating up Muslims, we don't care if you're beating up Sikhs, because they don't fit, they're the others.
This really has not changed that much in terms of how much the Jews are hated here in Quebec and in Montreal, and it's a very scary thing, because we're supposedly living in it. Everybody was saying that Quebec and Montreal are two very inclusive places.
They're not,
and they're not. They're far from it. There's other places in Canada that are way more inclusive, and Montreal and Quebec is not one of them. Montreal is a very hatred city, despite it being cosmopolitan. and there's 2 strikes against both the English-speaking people and the and people that are on the Jewish faith, and that's the problem. This is Montreal. This is Montreal, folks. So I just want you to know that no, do not turn off your radios or television sets.
Is Toronto any better? Is Toronto any better? No.
Toronto is different. I mean, they don't have to worry about language, but any major city, you're going to have a problem. I'm not going to say Montreal is the only city that's going to have a problem. The unfortunate thing is Montreal in this province has 2 strikes versus 1 strike of most other cities, because the other cities don't have legislation whereby you cannot wear religious symbols. They do not have legislation forcing French or another language down our throats, while this province does. But the other cities, yes, they do have their problem. There is a lot of hatred. Jewish people that are being hated, blacks are being hated, Puerto Ricans are being hated.
I have to remind you, Sheldon, that in the last, let's say, 30 or 40 years, all the haters came from either Toronto or from Winnipeg and from Halifax. Remember, the Winnipeg and Halifax had 2 of the Holocaust deniers that were teaching in high schools?
Yeah.
And Toronto had the National Front, which was the white supremacist group that was run out of Toronto. Ernest Zundel lived in Toronto, remember?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So hatred's not exclusive to Montreal.
No, but again, Montreal has a 2nd strike of hatred, or actually a 3rd strike of hatred, because the second one being language and the 3rd being religious symbols. So
yeah, but that's all of Quebec.
Strikes.
That's not only Montreal; it's all of Quebec.
Yeah, but exactly, that's what I'm saying. But Montreal, unfortunately, is in Quebec.
Yeah,
and that's a very bad situation that Montreal now has to have 3 strikes, because it's in the province of Quebec that does not want anybody to wear religious symbols, that does not want people to freely be able to express English and or receive English language services. So that, like I said, there's 3 strikes in Quebec and in Montreal.
1-877-669-1292 is the number to get involved in the conversation. Number to call in. 1-877-669-1292. So Sheldon, so you're calling for the Jewish Defense League to move to Montreal. This is what I'm hearing from you, and
yes.
I agree with you. I think it's time for the Jewish Defense League to come to Montreal, and maybe next week we'll get Mayor Weinstein on the show. We'll ask him about that. Now, the question though I have is, if they did come to Montreal, what kind of kickback do you think there'd be from the organized Jewish community?
Well, the Jewish Defense League was never afraid of anybody. So
I didn't say they would be afraid. I'm just asking, what kind of kickback do you think there'd be? I don't think they'd be afraid.
There will be some pushback from the Jewish community. There's no doubt about it, because they did not want to have the Jewish Defense League in on the first place. If you also think that the elderly people that were walking around were not safe, and this was going back, what did you say, about 25, 30 years ago?
Yeah.
It was, and then your friend not being able to do that for the fear of deportation. This is another thing too, what you're telling me also. I thought Canada was supposed to be a very democratic country. This sounds like totalitarianism at its finest. To get the RCMP involved, this is not a terrorist organization. It's an organization to protect the Jewish community. This is not an organization that's going to throw bombs or have suicide bombers or use kids as shields and then claim that the other side is, go to the United Nations and say how ridiculous the other side is because they're bombing our children. This is a defense league, and this is an organization that's strictly there to protect the rights of the Jewish community, to be able to walk on our streets, to wear our symbols, and to be proud to be Jewish people. That's why. I mean, I know years ago, and like you said, I never thought I would hear myself saying we will need the Jewish Defense League in Montreal. I never thought in a million years I would ever say that. But because of the situation, and I'm also open-minded, because if no other organization is going to protect the Jewish people, then what choice do we have? If these other organizations were to step up at the plate, then I would say, yes, then we don't need the Jewish Defense League. But nobody's doing anything. And just to say, for the sake of staying in your house, this is like what happened years ago when Jewish people had to go into dungeons, or people had to have secret passages for the Jewish people to hide for fear of them being caught and killed. This is bringing back history all over again. What happened about people being proud to be Jewish?
I'm proud to be Jewish. I've always been proud.
I've never been ashamed.
I wish more people were proud to be Jewish. I really do.
Yeah. And the thing is, if we have to hear advice like hide our yarmulkes, hide our kippas, hide our mezuzahs, hide the Star of David, that's not protecting us. That's making us be scared. That's making us scared. That's making us not feel that we should be entitled to walk the streets proud. But there's a difference of feeling proud to be Jewish people and to take the religion and to do violent act against somebody who's not Jewish. And that's one thing the Jewish community never did. Israel never did. But other countries have done it. And then if this is the advice that people are telling us to hide the mezuzah, hide the kippah, hide any Jewish related symbols and stay in our house, what type of advice is that? The Jewish Defense League, Defense League is going to go out and saying, no. This is simply not. This will not do. People have to go out and be proud of who they are. Be proud of their tradition, the way that they were raised up. Be proud of being Jewish. Not ashamed to hang their heads. To hold their heads up high, proud in unison. That's what it's all about. And if if it's only the Jewish Defense League that's going to do it, then let them do it and let them stand proud and let the Jewish people to be able to go out and take a walk and not having to be afraid that they're going to be attacked.
Ladies and gentlemen, it took almost 10 years, but I finally converted Sheldon to being a right-winger. It's amazing.
It's not, you know what? It's not even being a right-winger, Howie, or left-winger.
No, it's just being a pragmatist. That's really what it is.
It's just pragmatism. It's just being the way it is. And that's one thing I am.
Yeah.
If it's something that's going to protect the Jewish community, protect our health and well-being of ourselves and our family, I'm common sense and I call a spade a spade. That's the way I operate. You know that.
Sheldon, have you ever been afraid to be Jewish in Montreal? Have you ever been afraid to show your Jewishness?
I've never been afraid to show my Jewishness.
You worked in commercial radio for what, 40 years. And the question is, though, in commercial radio, I had a couple of run-ins with some hosts of commercial radio because I wear a yarmulke. You don't wear a yarmulke, but I wear a yarmulke. So I had a couple of run-ins with some hosts and some people working in commercial radio. Did you ever experience any problems because you were Jewish?
No, except there was one listener that kept calling a bunch of us, and they finally arrested him after so many years.
Oh, I remember that guy.
And he would just go on, and no matter what, whether or not he was on the air, which he would be deleted anyway or dumped, or just completely dismissed by callers. But there would be a person randomly calling, threatening to come down.
I remember that.
And that guy got arrested.
Yeah, I called the police a couple of times on that guy.
And I've never had any incidents whereby from the staff that I worked with, commercial radio, that said anything bad about me being Jewish. So, or knocked me down for being Jewish or made fun of me for being Jewish. And you got to remember too, Melanie King, who used to work at CJD, was a very proud Jewish person. Yeah. And the thing was, so was Tommy
Schermacher.
Yeah, and Tommy, and sure. So like when those two are around, I can assure you there wouldn't be a word said. They wouldn't be a word said because they have a lot of clout, they have a lot of influence. So there's no doubt about it. But you know what? Again, you can't prevent people from, let's say, discussing it in their own dinner table in their own family. They could discuss whatever the heck they want. But it's one thing when you go on social media or when you see somebody that's not your religion or not your skin color and purposely inciting racial slurs or physical attacks on a person because they're not like you, that's where it stops. And that's when it gets to be everybody else's business.
So you think it's right for people to butt in when they see something happening to somebody else?
Well, of course, it's always the case that people have to do what they have to do, the right thing. They can't just stand and be silent. They cannot just stand around and say, well, I'm going to stay in my house because I'm scared to be a Jew. You can't do that.
Well,
You
many people
can't.
are doing that now.
Yeah,
There,
you
there are
can't
so many
do
people
that.
doing that. And you know what? Kids
And
going
it's
to
scary when people
students
are
going
doing
to
that.
Concordia, Sheldon. Students going to Concordia for the last at least 2 decades have hidden every sign of their Judaism. You have the odd brave student who will wear a yarmulke or who will admit that they're Jewish in public at Concordia. But at Concordia University in the heart of Montreal, Jews have been hiding their identity for years. And I'll tell you, just about 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago maybe now, I was accosted at Concordia for wearing a yarmulke. And I'm not the only one to have been accosted. I'm the most public one to have been accosted because I took it to national media. I made a big deal out of it. But I'm not the only one to have been accosted. I know that I got hundreds of letters. I mean, forget about the trolls that were posting on all these articles online saying, oh, he's just making the story up. But I got hundreds of letters of kids sending me, Concordia kids sending me, emails, hundreds of them, telling me how they felt that that they couldn't express their Jewishness on campus.
It's a shame.
And it is a shame. It's a shame that an institution would allow that to happen. It's a shame that
university is supposed to be about freedom of expression, and freedom to be your own person, not to go and start riots or start threatening people because they're wearing a kippah. Like that's not what university is all about. I mean, I went to McGill.
Yeah.
I never had a problem in McGill. I mean, yes, I don't wear a kippah, fine. But people knew, look, I even had a teacher, a Lebanese teacher in human resources. She knew I was Jewish because I took a Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur off from the university, and I sent her a note, obviously, because I was going to be away, and she wished me she wished me an easy fast, and she wished me a healthy and happy New Year to my family, whatever. And she was the head of human resources, and like I was never threatened in the university. I was able to walk around, and I was like, I never had any issues. I never had any issues walking in Montreal, taking a bus. I mean, all I remember was I was seeing, and I saw this firsthand when I was coming back from Just for Laughs, and I was coming back where I used to live with my ex-girlfriend going back many years ago. And I took the bus, and I got off, and I started walking. And as I started walking, there was a person that was wearing a kippah. I was not with the person, but he got off at the same stop, and he and I were talking on the bus. And he was wearing a kippah, a very proud Jewish person. He was wearing the mezuzah, Star David, the kippah, very, very proud. The bus drops me off. I start walking home, and I say goodbye to him, and I wished him all the best. I started walking home, and he walked further down on Côte St. Catherine, another block or two. And as I was turning my head, and I was almost away, I was almost like out of sight with him, I heard screaming, cars honking, death to you, you Jewish person. And I wanted to come back, and by the time I came back, the car was gone. And I'm looking at this, I'm going, oh my God, like this happened. I was witness to it. I don't think anything happened to him because I didn't see him, but there was no, thank God there were no signs of blood or any other thing but I did see on the tail end of the car driving off the Palestinian flag.
Right.
Now, another thing too, speaking of university, where I used to go in McGill, for people that are in Montreal, I mean, the people who live outside of Montreal won't know, but in Montreal, right near McGill University, near Molson Stadium, on the corner of Park and Pine, there is an apartment complex, and on the side has a huge Palestinian flag, and it's marked Free Palestine.
Yeah. Just
on
the foot of Mount Royal. Just on the foot around Mount Royal.
Yeah, exactly. So you've seen it, I imagine.
Yeah.
Okay. There has never been any rallies that I've seen in front of it because I used to go by there all the time going to university. There's never been any scene. There's always was that symbol. And I would be frightened because then I was also wondering, what would that mean if people that were walking wearing kippahs, and I'm not saying for them not to walk wearing kippahs. That's not what I'm saying. What would happen to them, though, if they were to walk by and people that were living in that building would see that?
That's a good question.
And you know,
Excellent
when I ponder that question, when I ask myself that question, Howie, I shouldn't even have to ask that question in my own city.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, you're right.
And that's what scares me, and that's what makes me very, very frightened. And that's why I always said that now, like 7 years ago, when I was on True Talk Radio first with you, I would have never thought in a million years, when you had Mr. Weinstein on, Mayor Weinstein, I would have never thought in a million years to ever think of having the Jewish Defense League. I would never, but now
imagine less than a decade later, and now you're saying,
and we don't have a choice. It's not. We really, and I can imagine when if all being well, we do get Mayor Weinstein on. I can only imagine how many Jewish people in Montreal are probably writing to him saying, we would really like to have a regional headquarters of the Jewish Defense League because we need it badly.
I got a message on Facebook from Paul saying, "Good evening, guys. How are things? I'm Catholic and I wear a cross on a chain around my neck. Everyone should feel free to wear whatever religious symbols they wish, wherever they are." Paul, I agree with you.
Right.
You're 100% right. If we pretend to live in a free and democratic society, then we should be able to express our religious beliefs freely and democratically. This should not be it should not be an issue. We should live in freedom. Freedom of religion is guaranteed in our Canadian and Quebec Charter of Rights, and this should be it should be a given. It shouldn't be a favor given to us. It shouldn't be a privilege. It's a right, and there's a difference between a right and a privilege.
Mm-hmm.
And so, freedom of religion is a right, and we should have the right to express ourselves religiously. But when you have institutions like Concordia, and I'm picking on Concordia for various reasons, I could pick on Rutgers University too, because Rutgers has the same problem. Ryerson in Ontario,
Toronto, yeah.
The Jewish Student Union at Ryerson, Hillel, the Jewish Student Union at Ryerson, cannot have any events outside of their office for the fear of being attacked or being shouted down or being shut down.
Good
so
heavens.
for the last 6-7 years, Ryerson has only had Jewish activities in the office of the local Hillel, which is outrageous if you ask me. A university, a center of higher learning.
I wonder if McGill has activities outside. Do you know if McGill has Hillel has activities outside?
I don't know. I just happen to know about Ryerson because I got a letter from people telling me that Ryerson has this problem.
And obviously Concordia doesn't have a Hillel, or do they?
They have a Hillel, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure if Hillel does stuff outside of their office or outside of their immediate bubble. I'm not sure. But it's sad that people can't express themselves publicly. I mean, we're supposed to live in a multicultural country, right? Where we're supposed to celebrate everybody's culture. Yet everybody except for the Jews. That seems to be the way it works. And that's really sad. Because every time I look at anything happening in our country, anything I look at anything happening in our city, it seems to me that it's anyone could do anything they want except for the Jews.
And the Jewish people are simply just defending themselves. They're not going on the offense to go into somebody's house or to destroy a family that's not Jewish.
I don't know.
They're just defending themselves.
There are hundreds,
and they're getting all the flack from all the media.
There are hundreds and hundreds of protests for various different reasons throughout Montreal on a continuous basis all year round. But whenever there's a protest or a demonstration, it's not even a protest. Whenever there's a demonstration or expression of love for Israel, suddenly there's huge media presence and there's huge counter protesters and there's huge. I mean, look, you don't like Israel, that's fine. I have no problem. You want to protest against Israel? I have no problem with that either. You want to protest at a pro-Israel rally? You want to protest against Israel? I really have no problem with that either because everyone has the right to express their opinion. But you do not have the right. You do not have the right to disrupt the pro-Israel rally. You do not have the right to attack the people who are coming to the pro-Israel rally. You don't have the right to initiate violence against people at a pro-Israel rally. You don't have that right. That's not the right that you have. You want to stand with your signs, your placards, your flags, and yell that Israel's an apartheid state or whatever made-up charges you have against Israel. That's fine. You could do that. You have the right to do that because you have the right of expression, and I respect your right to be able to do that. I may disagree with you, but I respect the right that you have to do that. But you do not have the right to physically assault people. You do not have the right to disrupt somebody else's right of assembly and somebody else's right of expression. You want to express your opinion? Go ahead. You want to argue with people at the rally, as they're walking away? You want to have arguments with them? Go ahead. Discussion is always good, regardless of how loud or how abrasive it is. Discussion is always good of issues. But you do not have the right to get violent. You don't have the right to attack people based on their ethnicity. You don't have the right to attack people based on their political beliefs. You don't have the right to attack. When I say attack, I mean physically attack people based on anything. You have no right to physically attack people. And once you get violent and you physically attack people, not only are you violating that person's human rights, violating that person's right and freedom of expression, violating that person's right and freedom of religion, but you're negating your own argument. Then suddenly...
Well, I've always said, too, Howie, that any kind of protests, as long as it's peaceful, and like you said, you don't have to agree for the other side, but be respectful. If everybody should have the right to express their views respectfully without violence. But how often, and this is where media always capitalizes, God bless our media, that 5 or 10% of the splinter groups that do the violence. Because also, look, you even told me when you once had, I think on the footsteps of McGill or something, when there was an Israeli and Palestinian demonstration, you actually went over to the leader of the Palestinian protest, and you actually were trying to engage in peaceful,
I did more than that, dialogue. Sheldon. I brought him onto my show.
Yeah, and you brought him. Okay,
we had a conversation on the radio.
Yeah, and the thing is, you see, that's great that you're able to do that. But when somebody starts throwing the first rock or starts, going after physically and endangering a person's health and safety,
it's outrageous.
That's a horse of a different color. That has to be stopped. In any demonstration anywhere around the world, demonstrations are part of the fabric of the democratic freedom and the DNA. That's where it stops in terms of respectful opposite points of view, but not physical and not the eradication of the other side. And that's the biggest problem that we have. And now we took, it's always the case. They take a situation and they amplify it all over the world. And then right away, if a person is wearing a kippah, a Star of David or mezuzah, right away they go after them. They're just walking down the street, minding their business, proud to be who they are. They're not brainwashing anybody. They're not giving lectures or attempting to convert somebody to come onto their side. They just want to be left alone in peace with their families, with themselves, and to be able to march or to be able to walk proudly. To be Jewish, to express being proud of being Jewish. And now people are telling people in the Jewish faith, no, you can't be proud. You can't walk out with a kippah or mezuzah or a Star of David because you're going to get attacked.
It's scary. It's scary and it's
There's
sad.
Something wrong.
There's something seriously wrong. 1-877-669-1292 is the number to get in on a conversation. 1-877-669-1292. There is something definitely wrong there, Sheldon. We like I said, we claim to live in a multicultural society. We claim to live in a land that accepts people. We want immigrants. We want various kinds of people to come to our land. And then we have all this hatred. Where do you think this hatred comes from? Why do you think it's imported hatred or do you think it's homegrown hatred?
I think it's basically brainwashing because whether or not.
But who's doing the brainwashing?
Well, the thing is, it's they use history to brainwash.
Who?
And they use
Who
history
uses,
of violence.
Whoa, who uses history? Don't play the pronoun game with me. Be specific. Who are we talking about?
Well, like let's say for the Palestinians or people that have hated Jews for many, 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 many years.
Okay.
And kids are being brought up from their parents, and their parents are brainwashing their kids. Yes, you should strap a grenade on and walk into a synagogue and blow up, or take a gun and kill as many Jewish people as you possibly can. That's the brainwash. So whether or not it's here in the United States, back in the Middle East, wherever, it's all brainwashing. It's based on history. And the thing is, people have to break the cycle and finally say, you know what? War affects each and every person. If a person's child, whether or not they're Palestinian or a Jewish child, and a child is an innocent human being when they're first born, and they get killed, that has to stop. That has to stop. The hatred has to stop. And then people have to realize, if God forbid it's their kid, they're going to think twice. And then they're going to say, hey, you know what? This has to stop. Does it have to take a death of a person's child close to them to say, hey, this has to stop?
Well,
rather
Sheldon,
than go back in the history books and saying Jews are these people.
You know that the majority of people don't get a car alarm or don't get a home alarm until they are robbed. So sometimes sometimes it takes a calamity in order for people to learn the lesson and do something about it. And it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate that people have to die, or people have to get maimed or hurt, or things have to get stolen in order for people to take action and protect themselves.
But you know what really mystifies me? You see it every day. You see. There's always fighting every day, no matter which part of the world. There's wars, and innocent people all the time are getting killed. And you see the families distraught. You see the unbelievable agony of pain as a parent is holding their child that's dead. And it's like, even God forbid it's not your child, and hopefully it never will ever be your child. But nevertheless, you see this all the time in the media. And this could very easily be your child. Don't you want this to stop as a parent? Don't even think about a religion. Think about yourself as a parent, a sibling.
A human being.
A human being. It's a human life is what I'm talking about. It is a human life. And life is fragile on the get-go. You have one shot in life. After your life is ended, that's it. You don't keep coming back. You don't keep getting resurrected. You don't keep coming back. You're dead, you're dead. And you could get people that are 15, 20, 5 years old that could be killed. When is this going to stop? People have to start saying, you know what? They see it all the time. And it's obviously when people are saying, oh, it's not going to happen to me, whatever. It could be somebody close to them. It's a human being. Just picture a parent holding their child. Imagine if it was your child, holding the child in your hand, not even a year old, a practical fetus just being born. And you have to hold a dead child, a dead fetus in your hand. Just think about that. Does it really pay to hate another religion? Does it really pay to hate somebody who's not like you? Really?
I never thought it did. I never thought it paid. I'm one of the guys who always said we have to call it what it really is. Like, we've lived under this fallacy for years that the war between the Israelis and the Arabs is a land war, and this has been a fallacy. It's been a propaganda tool that's been used for years to describe the war between Israel and the Arabs, or Arabs and Israel, or whichever way you want to look at it. The truth of the matter is that it is not a land war at all. It's a religious war. That's the truth of the matter. There is no land war going on there. Nobody cares about the land. Well, the Israelis care about the land, but the Arabs don't care about the land. It's not about the land. It's about the Jews being on the land. And once we realize that, and once we recognize the fact that it's not about, does Israel give up another 5 feet of Gaza, of the Golan Heights? Does Israel give up another 5 feet of Judea or Samaria? Does Israel give up the West Bank or Jerusalem? It doesn't. Once we realize that that's not what it's about, and once we start recognizing that it's more about religion and the Muslims not wanting the Jews in Muslim land and what they consider Muslim land, and the Jews saying, hey, we're the indigenous people of this land, we have the right to be here. Once we realize that it's not a land war, it's a religious war, because what gives the Jews the right to be there is their religion. The Torah gives the Jews the right to be there. So if the Jews' claim to the land is religious and the Muslim claim to the land is religious, then we're not talking about a land war anymore. Now we're talking about a religious war. And religious wars are a lot harder to deal with than land wars. If I encroach on your border and your country's border, and you say, hey, you encroached on our border, you took over part of our land, we'd like that part of land back, or we're going to go to war, I could say, okay, here, take your land back and back off your land, and we don't go to war. If this was a land war between the Israelis and the Palestinians, this war would have been over 50 years ago. There have been at least 70 agreements, land offers, or other kind of negotiations for land since the founding of the State of Israel. And each time, the Arabs have backed off because every single one of these negotiations was that a Jewish state has to exist there. It had nothing to do with the land. It had to do with the land in 2000 when Yasser Arafat was offered 98% of all the land that they claimed to be Palestine, plus Jerusalem as their capital, and walked away when Israel said, but the only thing we want in exchange is for you to recognize whatever's left of Israel as the Jewish homeland. And he walked away. He never answered. That proves right there that this is not a land war. If this was a land war, when Israel moved out of Gaza in 2005 and took every man, woman, child, every body, every animal, every scrap of human existence that Jews ever existed there out of Gaza, then the Gazans and the Palestinians who took over Gaza could have used Gaza to create their state of Palestine, at least a provisional state, and shown that they could live in peace and try to negotiate for some more land. This is something they could have done, but instead they started launching missiles and created a terror state and started launching missiles out of there to destroy the rest of Israel. If this was a land war, then we wouldn't hear the chanting of Palestine will be free from sea to sea, because that's the entire state of Israel. We wouldn't see pendants that say Palestine on that are the exact map of Israel. This does not prove that this does not give any indication that there's any room for negotiation for a Jewish state there. And the reason they can't have a Jewish state there is because the Quran tells them quite clearly that any land that was run by a Islamic caliphate is Islamic land forever, and any government that runs that land after conquering Islam, any government that runs that land is an infidel and must be destroyed. Which is why when ISIS first came around, and remember they wanted to create an Islamic caliphate right across the Middle East, and Spain. Why Spain? Because Spain was part of an Islamic caliphate, 500 years ago. And because Spain was part of an Islamic caliphate 500 years ago, it's Islamic land forever in their mind. So as long as it is a religious war and not a land war, it can never be solved. It's simple as that. So there will always be war there. There's always going to be strife there. There's always going to be problems there. And one more proof that it's a religious war instead of a land war. I've never heard of a land war where the people of one side and the people of the other side are fighting in the land, and then people who somehow share the same religion as the people living in that land are beaten up and killed 5,000, 6,000 miles away. I can't think of any other example where that's ever happened. If Poland and Russia get into a war, Russians aren't beating up Polacks in the middle of Manhattan. It's not happening.
Yeah.
But Israel and the Arabs get into a war, and Jews are being beaten up. Whether they're Israeli Jews or not, they're being beaten up in middle Manhattan. So you explain this to me, Sheldon. I don't know.
I can't explain it. I mean, obviously, you just hit the nail right on the head. It's this really, honestly, for everybody's sake, I've always wanted to be pro-peace and for people to respect one another. But obviously, like you said, it's a religious war, and nobody's ever going to respect the other side because of it being a religious war. And then people are taking that and they're beating Jews in cities all across the world, all around the world.
It's crazy. But it's true. That's the gist of it, really. So if you take it and break it down to the bare bones, that's really what's going on. It's the fact that it's a religious war. It's a religious war, Islam against Judaism. It's not the Palestinians against Israelis. It's not Muslims against Israelis. It's Muslims against Jews. And when it becomes Muslims against Jews, it becomes very dangerous. Historically, we've seen this, and now we're starting to see it again. It becomes very dangerous for Jews around the world. Because once the radical Islamic head rises up and starts fighting the infidel, it keeps fighting until death. And so we saw it happen in Europe. We saw it happen in Germany, then we saw it happen in France, and then we saw it happen in England. And they're still fighting the Islamic radicals there. And now it's rising up in Canada and the United States. And we're going to have the same problem that they had in Europe with Islamic Islamic extremists attacking innocent people to try to make some kind of religious political point. And it's a scary proposition. And this is why I'm saying, and I go back to the point I made at the beginning of the show, that we must learn to defend ourselves, because this isn't getting better. It's only going to get worse. As time goes on, this is going to get worse and worse. And if we can't defend ourselves and we're not willing to get up and move to Israel, then we have to be able to defend ourselves. Simple as that.
Yeah. And I hope that you can be able to get Meyer Weinstein on it. And hopefully, also, I'm curious to find out again if a lot of Montrealers reached out to him and said, we really want you here.
I'm sure
we really want you here. I'm sure he's probably getting calls and messages of all kinds from people in Montreal, and this has to be dealt with sooner rather than later.
1-877-669-1292 is the number to call to get in on the conversation. I'm Howie Silbiger. This is the Howie Silbiger Show right here on the True Talk Radio Network. He is Sheldon Eric Freed. He is my my long-suffering producer, and I like to call him that. And it was his birthday last week. And we weren't on last week, so we didn't get to wish him an on-air happy birthday, so I want to do that now.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Sheldon. It is good to know that you lived an extra year, and that you have another one coming up, and that someone your age could still celebrate birthdays and still be happy.
It's amazing, eh? It's really amazing. And my significant other brought me a beautiful, beautiful present. Was a picture that we took on our phones when she and I were in the Caribbean just before the pandemic hit, and she had it blown up, and she actually brought it to me last week on my birthday, and I had it hung up, and it's really amazing. Yeah, it was really quite something. So thank you for all the birthday wishes. I had plenty of birthday wishes on Facebook, so thank you so much, and it was really nice. It's as long as everybody's healthy. Hopefully next year I'll be able to celebrate my birthday somewhere else. Hey, by the way, Howie.
Yeah.
By the way,
yeah.
We are now free people.
Oh, that's true. I forgot to mention it. We're not under house arrest anymore.
Yep.
We're free.
Outdoor terraces are now open in the Greater Montreal area.
Sheldon, did you take off your ankle bracelet?
Yeah, I took it off. I took it off on the 28th of May. Yes, I did.
And it didn't start beeping.
No.
That's very good. I'm
really happy. Something. The only jurisdiction in North America that had a curfew.
Yeah,
if not around the world.
And it lasted forever, really. It was really forever, from January.
Yeah, it was. When did the curfew start?
Like January 9th or something, like right at the beginning of January.
Oh, like it was just, and it was like right in the middle of winter, like right in winter, which the days were short enough, and you just feel like you couldn't go out. You were like a bear. You were a hibernating bear. That's exactly how I felt, a hibernating bear.
Do you feel any differently now, Sheldon? Like, how often do you go out after 8 o'clock, really, honestly?
Well, no.
A man your age, how often do you go out after 8 o'clock?
Well, you know what? I used to get together with friends, so we used to go out. I mean, look at us during Just for Laughs. We used to get together. Sometimes we wouldn't get home till 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
I mean, obviously, it's not going to be the case in terms of festivals this year, or at least to the festivals that you and I are used to going. And it's just very, very strange that now about 60 to 65% of the population has received its first vaccination. I'm hoping that more and more people get their vaccine and the second vaccine, and hopefully, and you know what? It's amazing. The last couple of days, I've been taking walks in because I'm between two parks, nestled between two parks,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. Of even since the curfew broke, and even though a lot of the parents that have young kids, they're not going to go out late anyway. But it's just amazing when you start seeing the people in a much happier mood.
I agree.
And you see the kids are playing and they're happy and they're giggling, and the parents are close to the kids, and they're giving them a hug and everything, and they're walking hand in hand with the kids.
Have
And
you found yourself happier since the curfew went bye on Friday? I mean, it's only a couple of days, but do you feel happier?
well, I mean, I find that first of all, generally, I just find that yeah, I am happier because I never thought there should have been a curfew in the first place.
Right.
Because like you said, and how often you and I have talked about and agreed on it, saying the curfew doesn't show a time that, oh, it's a curfew. Okay, let's COVID-19. Let's go back to your place of origin, and then we'll strike. First thing at 5:01 in the morning the next day, we'll strike when the iron is hot. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, COVID doesn't stand on the corner going, look at the time. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, no, oh.
I don't see them wearing an Apple Watch anytime soon or a smartwatch of any kind. So it's like, the whole thing was so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it was like, we never needed it. And that was never the case. Look, they opened up the parks, and there were a bunch of people that were idiots that all got together, and thousands of people not wearing masks. That's not going to make anything go away. You want to get together, go to a park, get your distances. Look, hopefully soon we'll all be able to not wear masks anymore.
Right.
But it's also the behavior of people too. If people want to be smart and have the proper mindset, then we can get through this. If people are going to be stupid.
But Sheldon, you got to admit, it's also about government control and government.
Well, sure, it's about government control, and I was never for government control.
So
anymore, I wasn't for this curfew.
This whole idea of keeping us in the red zone and then moving us to yellow and then orange and green, that's all about government control.
And if you also notice that the rest of the province where we reside are in the orange zone, but Montreal and Laval and part of the eastern townships are still in the red zone.
And there's no reason for that. There's only 300 odd cases in the entire province. So
yeah.
There's really no reason for that. They're just doing it because they want to control us.
Well, they're also doing it because the CAC never likes Montreal.
Right.
The CAC hates Montreal because Montreal, 99.9% of them did not elect the CAC government.
Right. So they're punishing.
So they're taking it out on us. That's why they're
just
taking the
punishing
language
us. That's
bill
all they're
out on us, and now because it's going to be on the red zone, and they're eventually going to have to take it off because of the amount of pressure that they're going to be under by the people that are going to lose their jobs and the tourism industry. So,
well, the idea that after the second vaccination that you're not free to go back to the way life was beforehand seems a little odd to me. If you still have the risk of passing it on or getting it after the second vaccination, then why are we doing these vaccinations at all? So, I mean, it's one or the other. You can't have it both ways. So the government has to be able to let go a little bit of the power that we gave them, because we gave up our civil liberties and gave them the right to control us. We have to be able to take that back.
Well, it's called the next election, folks. Don't elect this government. I mean,
yeah, but what's the alternative? There's no alternative. There's no government. There's no other party that's an alternative in Quebec.
That's the problem.
There's nobody to vote for.
That's the problem for another day, for another discussion, because I could talk to you about this until the cows come home, and that's what I've always said on my Facebook page.
Well, Sheldon, we have another 22 minutes. We could talk about this. There is nobody to vote for. Yeah,
exactly. Like, I even said when Dino Mazzoni was on with us and we were having this conversation about like O'Toole was for Bill 101, Trudeau is giving Quebec the green light to make provisions in the Canadian Constitution. What's going on? Who's defending us here?
Nobody.
Who's defending on us?
Nobody.
I don't know. I really don't know who to vote for. I don't know who to vote for.
And who are you going to vote for?
I really don't know who to vote for.
Who are you going to vote for provincially?
I don't know. Like, honestly, because first of all, provincially, if you want, the Quebec Solidaire or the QS, the CAQ and the Parti Québécois are all for separation of Canada. They're
Right.
all for. So people are voting Liberal. Why? Because that's the only thing the Liberals have promised they're not going to do is to separate from Canada.
Yeah, but
everything else.
They're still going to discriminate against the English, and they're still going to discriminate
exactly.
against religion. So
the thing was that started with the Liberals in the first place.
Right.
The Liberals started with Bill 22. They started with inclusion. Against bills with religious symbols. This all started with the Liberal government, not with the other governments.
Yeah.
And so it's like they're so like I don't know who to vote for. I really don't. There's no alternative to any kind of party that respects all sides equally, and nobody has the courage, not federal, provincial, or civic politician in the city, province, or country that has, pardon the expression, the balls to stand up for us. So who do we vote for? We don't know who to vote for.
I don't know. I'm at a loss on this because I look at the options, Sheldon, and to me there are no options. There are no options. I have no one to vote for. Yeah. There is nobody that I could say represents me in politics.
Nope.
Now, of course, people are going to tell me, "Hey, Howie, if there's nobody who represents you for politics, maybe you should run yourself." But that's not the solution here. Because I'd have to create my own party, and then I'd have to find like-minded people to join my party. It's an uphill battle, and then trying to get elected as a party with like-minded people would be
also to get the funding and to be able to get the money, the donations to come in.
It would be almost impossible.
And also, you're putting your whole life, your whole private life, on display.
That's another story. Yeah.
And as we've talked about, Dino, you and myself, that now, instead of people having respect for you, and let's say they may not agree with your viewpoints that you have, they start attacking you. They start attacking your family. They start attacking everything. Personal is a personal assassination. Everything's on the table.
Yeah.
And I would never be able to run with that.
I mean, I could run with that, but I wouldn't want to put my family through it. I don't have.
Well, that's the thing.
I don't have
family.
I don't have very many skeletons in the closet. Everything I've ever done has been very public. I've been a public person since I'm 16 years old. Mm-hmm. So there's not very little that hasn't been exposed of stuff I do.
But it's not even you now. Now
it's me and my family, and I wouldn't want to put my family through it.
So where it used to be many, many years ago that they would say, oh, this person would vote for this. No, this is not where my party is. Vote for me, and I'll do that. So it leaves the other person's family out of it, and it's just debating the issues, the policies that the opposing candidate has on hand. And the debate should be respectful. Now everything's mudslinging. Even campaigns are mudslinging. I mean, it just, as a person that's well versed in the media, in the news and media, I'm absolutely appalled in our political systems, not only here in the States and in other parts too, where it's just dirty pull. When governors are running against each other, it's right away attacking the family and right away attacking this and attacking that, and not even the issues at hand. It's personal attacks. So even if you have no skeletons in the closet anymore, and I don't have any skeletons in the closet, it's still my family. Even though my family's not running, your family's not running. No. It would be you that would be running, or let's say if I wanted to go in the political arena, it'd be me running, but then my family would be in the spotlight. And my family didn't sign up for it. Your family didn't sign up for it. You know what it's like to go in political life because you have done it.
I have.
But now it's not even about you anymore. It's everybody going after you and just tearing you down in the family. And it's disgusting as far as I'm concerned.
It's not the way it's supposed to be.
No.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely not the way it's supposed to be. Politics was always argue the issues, and the person with the better argument, the person with the better stand on whatever issues are concerning the people, wins the election. Or it's a popularity contest. Whoever's more popular wins. But
and you see debates, Howie, and it's like it doesn't make a difference if let's say in the States you're a Democratic Republican. It's not even the case of that anymore. It's just a case that they're hammering this, they're hammering that. The other person's not even able to finish. It's like this. It's like slurring. It's like when somebody's trying to introduce something in the House of Commons and somebody's trying to talk, and you hear I mean, this is people that we're paying for in our taxpayer dollars. Is this is this supposed to represent our country, and is this the best we could do to elect these politicians? And you know what
If this
kills
is the
me?
cream of if this is the cream of the crop, we're in big trouble. You know, there's a
You're not kidding. You're not kidding.
there's a liberal guy named Amos. He's a liberal member of parliament, and about 2 months ago, he was photographed in the private parliamentary camera system. They were having an in-camera meeting that wasn't public, and he was photographed naked in the picture, right? And just this past week, he was caught urinating while in a meeting with his camera on. So I mean, this is the kind of people that are being elected to parliament.
Yeah.
He keeps saying, "Oh, it was a mistake. It was a mistake." Okay, first time it's a mistake. You walked in, he finished jogging, he didn't realize the camera was on, he changed in front of the camera. That could be a mistake. Probably wasn't, but okay, give the guy the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was a mistake. The second time,
yeah,
that's not a mistake anymore.
No, and he's even said he's going to go for help because I mean it's
that isn't a mistake anymore. That man is an exhibitionist, and so this is what's being elected, Sheldon. It's not the cream of the crop being elected.
No.
And that's the problem we have, is that we don't have the cream of the crop in politics anymore, because the people who are the cream of the crop won't run for politics because they don't want their lives ripped apart by the media and by the
opposition. Old guard is basically what people used to be as classy people going back years ago and running in the political spectrum. Like you said, they don't want to do it anymore. They don't want to be. They don't want to have their family in on the whole situation, and it's like if people are going to that kind of depravity, and now of course with social media and like you said, the situation with the camera when this person, this liberal person, went naked or whatever the case is. I mean, let's face it. Also, that there is a camera, and you're going to change. Well, either turn the damn camera off, or change in another area where the camera is not on. I mean, I don't have to say this on a logical thing that you and I both know, especially that everybody's under public scrutiny all the time.
I could bet you that the member of parliament that is exposing himself on camera does not live in a one-room bachelor apartment.
No, yeah, exactly. Thank you.
So if he lived in a one-room bachelor apartment, then maybe, there was nowhere else for him to go to change, and then he should have just made sure the camera was off.
I mean, I live in a studio apartment, okay? So, I only put my camera on when I'm ready to go on. Other than that, my camera is shut all the time. My camera's not even connected.
Right.
So if I come out of the shower, come out of the towel, nobody's going to see me except for myself.
Makes sense.
So
not that anybody would want to see you, Sheldon.
Like you said, the person, smart Alec, the person that's the liberal, the liberal or in politics, doesn't have a studio apartment, doesn't have an apartment, and even if he does have an apartment, he probably has a very big apartment,
multiple rooms.
Yeah, exactly. So you know what? You know that the camera's on, and social media, and the thing is. See, and here's another thing with speaking of politicians, our wonderful mayor, God bless her.
Oh, Mayor Bike Path. Yes. Okay.
Yes. And she decides that now that the curfew is finished and the terrace is open, I'm going to go and have a bite to eat. And then the next thing you know, she gets caught with a total of 4 people sitting at a table where the most that could be sat in, and the present day circumstances of the law, are 2 people. Uh-oh. And it's not her family. So it's not, if it was her family, that's one thing. But she even admitted it was a team. There was a chef at the restaurant, and there was her team. So her team is not her family. She might consider it her work family, but they don't live with her. And the chef does not live with her. And she got caught because with the thing with technology and social media, They took pictures and bingo, and she had to do a press conference, and she said, it was her mistake. She would not have said that had she got caught, but she got caught, And
Right.
that's what it is.
And that's what happens when you
And she
break the
expects
rules.
us, you and I, the two of us citizens of Montreal, that if we're going to go, we can't eat four people.
Yeah.
And look how many politicians on Christmas, they came back and they went away, they went out of town, and how many politicians got caught? One person, one provincial Liberal counterpart got caught here in Quebec, coming
Yeah.
back from Barbados. He refused to resign. The finance minister in Ontario resigned because Ford made him resign. Thankfully, Ford did make him resign.
Yeah.
And, like these politicians, it's like, do as I say, but not say as I do.
Exactly, and that's the problem. And there are tons of examples in the States that we don't have to get into, but there are tons of examples in the States
Yeah.
of politicians that lock down their populations, and then they go one state over to eat.
Yeah.
Or to
And it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's everywhere around the world. That's exactly what they do. It's like,
So how do we take these COVID regulations seriously when we know that politicians aren't taking them seriously?
yeah. And then if you and I were to do it, we get fined
Yeah.
and
How
or
can
be
we,
in jail.
How can we possibly take them seriously?
I haven't taken politicians seriously.
No, I'm talking
for
about the
ages.
regulations.
Yeah, that's
know
the thing.
that-
It's
we
like,
know that the regulations.
yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing it for my own personal safety,
Yeah.
not because them. I'm doing it for my own personal safety, and I'm vulnerable, and I'm doing whatever it is to keep myself safe, to doing the logical thing.
Right.
Just like you're doing the logical thing to keep yourself and your family safe,
Right.
not to go out and start being in a mass of thousands of people not wearing a mask.
Well, after I'm vaccinated 2 times, then I'll have no problem doing that.
Yeah, but that's after you're vaccinated twice, and even that and the thing is, like, the herd immunity, the herd immunity only counts when the majority of the people get vaccinated.
I'm not worried about herd immunity. I'm not worried about herd you.
I said that too.
You got me there, Sheldon. I'm not worried about herb. I'm not worried about herb either, okay? I'm not worried about herd immunity. If I'm vaccinated twice, then my immunity is about 96%, 97%. And as long as I'm immune, I don't care.
Yeah.
But
I got my second vaccine. And but here's another thing what's going to happen too. Like we were discussing this off air, that now here provincially, I don't know about the other parts of Canada or state or around the world. Once you get the 2 shots, I mean, you got an email apparently when you got your first shot.
Yeah.
I got because I got it in the building where I live in. I got both of my vaccines, and after the second vaccine, which I happen to have gotten on my birthday, happy birthday present from the government.
Yay, sore arm. Yay.
Yeah, so when I got my second vaccine, about a half an hour to an hour later, I get a text on my phone, and I almost thought it was a scam from the government.
Right.
Because all these bunch of scams that are going out. And they said, proof of vaccination. Going, proof of vaccination? So I copied the link, and I put it onto my computer because I didn't want to download it on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And because I have an antivirus thing. So I take a look. Sure enough, bingo. My first shot, my first dose was February 18th at my place of residence. Second dose, May 19th. Second dose, and both was indicated Pfizer at my place of residence. So I'm wondering now if there's going to be a part, and I have a funny feeling I would not be surprised if this is going to happen. This might wind up going into future passports, proof of immunity against, and I'm wondering.
Well, you're going to need it eventually to travel. So
yeah. So the thing is, I got one, so I don't know how that's going to work in terms of will it be built in the passport and future passports that we're going to be getting. Now I know we're going to be getting boosters in terms of the variations of COVID-19. Just as the other day, apparently there's another variation in Vietnam that people are now being worried about. There was a variation.
I don't even listen to that. I don't even listen to that anymore.
So the thing is, there is going to be booster shots. Just like basically like the flu shots that we get every year, that people that do get the flu shots every year, because there's always a different variant of the flu, the strain of the flu. So the same thing will probably be with COVID, but for the first initial dosage that I got, and you're going to get the second one coming up soon. that's going to be a big thing. And I think I see where governments are going to go, and countries will probably not admit people or not wanting to admit people until they have proof that they got at least 2 vaccines.
Yeah, well, that's happening already, Sheldon.
Yeah.
And we're all out of time, Sheldon.
Howie, it's been fun.
You know, the hour and a half goes by so quick.
I am telling you, it's
90 minutes just flies when I'm talking to Sheldon.
I'm telling you, especially when you wear that purple shirt, it kind of like Prince in Purple Rain. But it really flies by very, very, very fast.
You think this is a purple shirt, Sheldon?
It looks like that in the lighting.
It is blue, Sheldon.
Well, it looks like that. It looks purple in the lighting.
Sheldon has a color processing problem, apparently.
No. I mean, I see your beard being gray, so it's not.
Oh, okay. As long as my beard is gray, then
yeah, exactly. Yeah. All the leaves are brown and the sky's gray. You know.
Exactly.
California dreaming. Yeah. It's been fun. Yeah,
that's one of the songs you might hear on Sheldon's show.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to let you know, I have a big surprise coming up in my show in September. Yeah. I will speak to you. I will speak to you off air about it.
But it's May, so we have quite a ways to go.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I'll speak to you in the month of August about it. But I'm just forewarning the listeners now that in the fall there is going to be a big surprise. If you're a fan of a certain artiste that I do play on my show, you're going to hear the artist for 2 hours. Back to back.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah. And I know that's one of your favorite groups, and the front runner of this group is one of your favorite artists.
Yes, it's the Mamas and the Papas.
No.
And he's going to, and ABBA. He's going to play them back to back.
ABBA does not fit the
one song,
classic rock. No.
One song, Mamas and the Papas. Next song, ABBA. Next song, Mamas and the Papas. Next song, ABBA.
No. It reminds me of a friend of mine who shall remain nameless.
Yes.
Yes. We'll just leave it at there, shall we?
A friend of yours who shall remain nameless, who played Can't Touch This on Shom FM. And not only did he play...
I'll never forget it in my life.
Not only did he play Can't Touch This on Shom FM, he played Come On and Feel the Noise by Lucky Ook, a ukulele playing band.
You want to tell people out there that don't know what Shom is?
It's a classic rock station.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rest assured, I will not play that on my Inside the Vault show. That's a promise from me.
Oh, I was looking forward to hearing Sheldon Freed's.
Sorry, that's no.
Can't.
But it is a group, and it's a person, the forerunner of this group. This group went through a couple of vocal changes.
Yeah.
And and I think you're going to enjoy that.
I am looking forward to it. I don't even know what you're talking about, but I'm looking forward to it.
I'll tell you off air.
I'm sure you will.
Yes.
All right, I'm Howie Silbiger. He's Sheldon Freed. I'd like to thank you for joining us. It has been an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to be on the air with you.
Thank you, and the same goes with you.
I will be back again on Tuesday with Political Hitman, Tuesday at midnight. That's Tuesday going into Wednesday, midnight. With Political Hitman, I hope you could join me. Not Sheldon, but the rest of you. Sheldon will be sleepy. He'll be sleeping already. It's way past his bedtime. So
definitely. Yeah.
So Sheldon will be sleeping at midnight, but I'll be here on the air with you and Political Hitman at midnight on Tuesday going into Wednesday. And, of course, me and Sheldon, we should be back here again next week with another episode.
Should be back here next week, yes.
The Howie Silbiger Show. Until then, I bid you a great week and stay safe out there. You too, Sheldon. You stay safe.
You too stay safe.
And happy belated birthday yet again. Sheldon turned 97, and we had to keep repeating it throughout the show.
What did you try to say to me again?
We have to repeat it throughout the show because his memory isn't what it used to be. So we repeat it. We keep repeating it. Sheldon, happy birthday! I know it was last week. I just want to wish you
so much,
a happy
Nathaniel
birthday.
Silbiger. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, we'll see you again next time.